Hello, and welcome to Season 5, Episode 3 of the Midwest Gaming Classic Podcast. I'm your host, Jason Garris, Panel Director of the Midwest Gaming Classic. We're thrilled to welcome one of the most versatile storytellers in modern gaming, writer, designer, and tabletop guru, Rob Wieland. Join Rob as he takes us on a guided tour through the ever-expanding world of tabletop role-playing games. Whether you've been rolling dice since the Red Box, you're a die-hard critter who never misses a session, or you're just a little die-curious and wondering what all the buzz is about, this event is absolutely for you. Rob will break down what's new in the latest edition of Dungeons & Dragons, pull back the curtain on the universes he's helped bring to life, including Star Wars, Firefly, and a host of other fan-favorite worlds, and share insights from decades of crafting unforgettable adventures. And for all of you dungeon masters out there, veteran or brand new, bring your burning questions. Rob's here to help you sharpen your storytelling, smooth out your encounters, and level up your games. So settle in, grab your dice, and get ready for an adventure, because Rob Wieland is about to take us on a journey through the heart of tabletop role-playing. And you know what? Enough of me talking. Why don't we get to the podcast?
Join tabletop game creator Rob Wieland as he discusses everything that you ever wanted to know about Dungeons & Dragons, but may have been scared to ask.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all for coming out. My name is Rob Wieland. I am an author, game designer, and professional nerd. And I have been invited by the good people at Midwest Gaming Classic to talk a little bit about my background. And my background is in tabletop gaming. Tabletop gaming is currently ascendant on several fronts, whether you are a board game enthusiast or a role-playing game enthusiast or somebody who was suddenly reminded of the existence of Dungeons & Dragons by Stranger Things. All of these things have come together to really push tabletop gaming back into the spotlight. And so when I became a special guest here at Midwest Gaming Classic, I wanted to talk about my area of expertise, and that is tabletop role-playing games. So, for those of you in the audience who are unfamiliar, hopefully by the end of it, you'll be a little more familiar with the ins and outs of Dungeons & Dragons. For those of you who are already familiar with Dungeons & Dragons, hopefully we will educate you as to kind of what's going on in the modern space, as well as perhaps suggest some alternatives to tabletop RPGs beyond Dungeons & Dragons. And for the rest of you who just wandered in because your feet are already tired, hopefully I won't disturb your nap. So, this panel is called Everything You Wanted to Know About Dungeons & Dragons, but Were Too Cool to Ask. In case you haven't figured it out, Dungeons & Dragons has started to finally shake off the stigma of years and years and years of being an antisocial game played by antisocial people in their parents' basement, or if you were lucky, being a game played by Satanists who are attempting to conjure their Dark Lord. You can still do those things, but there are a lot of other options that you can pursue. Anyone who wants to conjure the Dark Lord, we'll meet afterward. I apologize for the staticness of the slides. We had to hack something, so pretend there's a lot of cool whooshing and star wipes and things like that. Thank you. So who am I? Why do I get to give this spiel? Well, my name is Rob Wieland. You can find me on Twitter at Robo Wieland. You can also find my blog at robowieland.blogspot.com. Twitter is where you'll find me talking about game design as well as ranting about various political things. robowieland.blogspot.com. That's where I post links to a lot of my work. And that's also where I post links to a lot of system hacks and things like that. Like I tend to post free things to my website for things that I cannot afford the IP to do, like a Harry Potter role-playing game, for example. I can't afford to do a Harry Potter role-playing game because I do not have billions of dollars for a license, so I will ruminate on those thoughts and put them up on my blog. Now, the three jobs that I always say that I have are author, game designer, and professional nerd. As an author, you may have seen my work. Primarily, over the past couple of years, I've been doing a lot of work for the website Geek and Sundry, where I do a lot of Kickstarter feature articles. I also write support articles for the show Starter Kit. If any of you have read in the past couple of months a Geek and Sundry article about here are 3 pop culture characters that you can use to play this particular class, those are all mine. And if you are one of the people in the who in the comments complained about them, I would like to say thank you for reading. Also, Milwaukee Record is a local publication that I do a lot of work for. I'm sort of the local nerd correspondent. You may have seen my most recent work. We did Weird Al Week for Milwaukee Record because the man, the myth, the legend, Weird Al Yankovic was in town. And so I wrote quite a few articles about my experiences with Weird Al Yankovic. And I also did some work for Onion AV Club, primarily for their Gamological Society sort of sub-page. And I also did a lot of work for the local Onion AV Club, RIP. May it rest in peace. As a game designer, I've worked on over 40 books, ranging from small personal designs all the way up to big licensed designs. So I've worked on IPs ranging from my own, like Camelot Trigger and Save Game, all the way up to ones for small art films that you may recognize, like Star Wars or Firefly. I've also been a convention special guest at a variety of conventions, both here and throughout the country. My next convention special guest appearance is probably going to be in Stevens Point in June. I'm going to be at Meeplestock. And I'm also going to be, once again, a special convention guest at Gamehole Con in Madison, Wisconsin. And I am a professional nerd. I host trivia events throughout the city of Milwaukee that tend to be on the more difficult side of the spectrum. And I also host a variety of events, including D&D meetups. I also run a program to teach kids how to play D&D and a variety of other things of that nature. All right. So when I tell people that I'm a game designer, I often get a response that's like, "Oh, did you sell a bunch of them to like your mom and your dad and made it out of your garage?" And well, yeah, I did, but I also have dozens of credits throughout years and years and years of working, and they range from Star Wars Saga Edition to Shadowrun to Star Trek Adventures to Firefly to Save Game, which is a game that I think a lot of people here would be interested in because it is about 8-bit video game characters banding together to fight off a computer virus that is invading their retirement island. And the most recent one that's going to be coming out probably in May is my work on Monarchies of Mao. It's the sister game to a game called Pugmire. And Pugmire is D&D but with dogs. Instead of playing elves and trolls and orcs, you play as a far future evolved version of your favorite dog breed. And if Pugmire is D&D for dogs, Monarchies of Mao is Game of Thrones with cats. So those are both things that, and it's really funny because with Pugmire and with Monarchies of Mao, people tend to play their own pets, which is really interesting to see. Like, I know how Mr. Binkles would do this. Don't tell me what his alignment should be. What is a role-playing game? My favorite definition is improvisational radio theater. You're all describing events verbally, and you're kind of making it up as you go. One of my friends coined another definition that I like, which is fan fiction in real time, especially if you're playing a game that is set in a preset sort of, like a Star Wars or a Firefly. Everybody at the table is telling a story. Oftentimes, what happens is the players want to tell one story, the dungeon master wants to tell one story, and the story that actually gets told is kind of the blend mix between the two. One person presents a story point, and other people react to it through editing, negotiation, and suggestion. And then when the story goes down multiple interesting paths, it's left up to the game part to see what happens next. That's why they have dice, because there generally comes a point where people kind of go, I don't know, what do you think we should happen? I don't know, what do you think should happen? Well, let's find out. Or I want this to happen. Well, I want this to happen. Okay, let's use the arbitrary decision made by these small polyhedral things to facilitate that forward. Traditional games leave the resolution of that up to the character's abilities. Traditional games tend to define characters through how hard they can hit, how high they can jump, how well they can fight. Indie games leave it up to the character's position in the story. Indie games tend to be more about, well, what makes sense for the story that we're telling? Like, if this character is having problems with this person, and yeah, they're probably going to get into a fight, and they're probably going to lose it because it's the first act, and they need to wait to the third act to actually, beat the guy. Like, Rocky wouldn't be a great movie if he knocked out Apollo Creed in the first round. So that's kind of the fictional positioning that indie games tend to cater towards. Traditional games focus on what characters can do. Like I said, they focus on, well, I am an expert shot. I am a kung fu master. I am very poor at being able to resist diseases or other things like that. They also tend to be focused on character development. In a traditional game, you start out as kind of a newbie, and you eventually grow into a much more powerful character. Traditional games tend to follow more of the Frodo or the Luke Skywalker character arc of, like, low-level person that arcs all the way up to somebody who is very powerful. They also tend to pay out long-term campaigns better. You've probably talked to people who play D&D and who have been like, I've been playing this character for 25 years. And those tend to be outliers, but the way that the traditional games are structured, those are what, I see so many people, come in, it's okay, I'm not going to throw a thing at you. Now they're like, no, that was me, there's a guy behind me. Long-term campaigns tend to like to play out a longer story and feel more like a novel or like a series of novels. And the systems tend to model physics, which means that they tend to be unforgiving if you want to do something that's crazy. Like, if you want to jump and grab a chandelier and swing across a ballroom, you're probably going to have negative penalties that you're going to be dealing with because that's a really hard thing to do. Indie games focus on what characters are. Oftentimes, they have abilities that are more ethereal. Like, instead of like strength and constitution, they might have something like heart, or they might rate a relationship that a character has. Characters also tend to be flexible rather than characters developing and gaining power. They change as the story gets told. Think of it along the lines of a comic book where Spider-Man is still going to be Spider-Man basically forever. And there may be moments where it changes into other things, or he changes into other things, wears a different suit or gets married, but ultimately things kind of reverse back to the base status. Indie games are also better focused on short-term or one-shot style of games, where you play once or twice or three times and that's it, you've told the story. That's why indie games are often a really good entry way into tabletop role-playing game, because there isn't that fear of a long-term commitment. If you play a game like Fiasco, you're going to play that for one session, and that's going to be it, and that's okay. It's okay to have both types of games, just in the same way that it's okay to have Donkey Kong versus Skyrim, because they each sort of scratch a different particular itch. And the systems also, somebody's like, I got to do a Donkey Kong Skyrim mod. Wait a minute, just throwing barrels at. And my barreled dragonborn shout. Systems also model the fiction. They're more interested in emulating a type or a style of story, and so they want to encourage players to do the stuff that they see in those stories. So if your character is going to do that thing where you're jumping across and grabbing the chandelier, if you're playing in a game where that's trying to emulate something like the Three Musketeers or Pirates of the Caribbean, an indie system tends to be something that encourages that and makes it easier for you to do. You either get a bonus or you spend points, and that allows you to swing across. And of course, there are always games that blur these lines because that's just the nature of. As soon as you try to categorize something in an either-or scenario, there's always going to be the third category of, it's a little this, it's a little that, but we're going for broad overview here. So, where do I learn to play D&D? Anyone? Bueller? Where's that? Home, the internet. All correct answers. You all get 1,000 points. The big one is still the friendly local gaming store. It is the backbone of the tabletop industry, and it is often where players and dungeon masters immediately go to seek out other people. Before we get into this section a little bit, I do want to do a quick little sort of informal survey. How many folks here are currently players in a D&D or some sort of RPG type game? All right. How many folks here are dungeon masters who are running a D&D or other RPG type game? All right, cool. And how many folks have never played, never dungeon mastered, or done anything at all with this type and style of game? All right, cool. We've got a nice mix. I'm glad to see that. So, players and dungeon masters tend to go to the friendly local gaming store or seminars like this to look for players for their games. Fifth edition has a program that a lot of gaming stores participate in called Adventurers League, where you bring your character to like a Wednesday. It's basically like a Wednesday night poker night, but instead of poker, you play Dungeons and Dragons. You make a character under specific guidelines. You go, you play D&D for like an hour or two, and your characters advance. You get a little bit of a storyline. It's kind of a sampler platter kind of setup for Dungeons and Dragons. A lot of people that I know will play Adventures League, but they'll recruit out of those games for their own personal games that tend to either go longer or go deeper. There's also online play. There are websites like Roll20 is a prime example of it. You can also play over Google Hangouts. I know a lot of people who had D&D groups where somebody moved away or started working second shift and didn't want to come out of the house, and you can set up those online play, or Twitch for that matter, and play with people through the internet via Skype or Google Hangouts or some other chat thing. And then there's also a website called Storium, which I include in here because it's sort of an RPG. Like you basically kind of write. It's a little bit like those writing exercises back in grade school or high school or even college, where like you'd write a chunk of a story, then you hand it to your neighbor, and then they write a chunk of the story, and then they hand it to their neighbor. But it has more role-playing elements because you tend to focus on what your character does and how they react to what has happened in the story before them. And there's also a little bit of gamification too, so that it's not just, well, I killed the dragon and I scored with everybody in the castle, so I win, the end, game over. I mean, you can do that, but you're probably not going to have people wanting to play with you for very long. Then we have streaming. Streaming is the new hotness as far as Dungeons and Dragons is concerned. It's really taken off in the past couple of years. And one of the reasons it's done so is because it breaks down one of the most challenging elements of D&D, which is watching people to learn how to play it. More often, in the long ago, the before time, you would need to have somebody kind of take you under their wing and be like, let me show you the mystical world of Dungeons and Dragons. And now there are people on the internet who will do that for you. Dungeons and Dragons and Wizards of the Coast has actually really embraced the whole thing. They do their own live streams and their own Twitch games on a fairly regular basis. But these are some of the ones that are some of the larger. The biggest one is, of course, Critical Role. Do we have any critters in the audience? All right. See, we're narrowing it down. And Critical Role has done a ton of goodwill in letting people, getting people to watch it and then go, hey, you know what? I can do this. And then those people breaking off and starting their own D&D campaigns. There's another good example of a podcast is the Adventure Zone. Do we have any Adventure Zone fans in the audience? All right. I feel like the Critical Role and the Adventure Zone are sort of two ends of the spectrum, because Critical Role is very well polished and well put together and very sickly produced, and the Adventure Zone is a little rougher around the edges, but I feel like it also kind of catches the authentic sitting around with your friends playing D&D vibe a little better. But both of them are excellent examples of how to play these types of games. And there are, beyond those, there are dozens of them that you can find on the internet and on iTunes or Stitcher or whatever you listen to. Shield of Tomorrow is the Geek and Sundry Star Trek actual play that uses the Star Trek Adventures role-playing system that the company Modiphius just released. And I put it on there partially because it's very good, because the characters all dress up in, Starfleet uniforms, and some of them actually do like a little bit of alien makeup. And I also put it up there because it's a little self-serving, because that's one of the shows that I write for Geek and Sundry. I do a lot of the side content. The last one that came out was a look at how Klingon evolved into its own language, and how that's a fairly unique thing as far as sci-fi franchises go. So, you can also do it yourself. The 5th edition starter set is available at friendly local gaming stores. It's available on Amazon. It is $20 MSRP, but if you shop around, you can find it for anywhere between $15 to $20, and it has everything that you need to learn how to play D&D. It has a short adventure in it that's very well done. It has pre-made characters in the box that you can use, and there are additional ones you can pull offline if the ones in there don't really grab you. And it has a cut-down rule book that really focuses on the basics, and it's just a great thing to pick up and try out. And if you like it, great. If you don't, you're out, the price of a pizza and like some breadsticks. Like, oh darn. Alternately, I know a lot of groups will split the cost of a core book set. There are 3 core books for Dungeons and Dragons that are the Player's Handbook, the Monster Manual, and the Dungeon Master's Guide. And those run for about $50 a book, for like $150 for the whole set. Although again, if you shop around, you can usually probably find them for under $100 total. And if you've got a group of a Dungeon Master and 4 players, that's 5 people. If you split that cost between all of you, that's a very easy way to do it, because that's $30. I mean, that's a night at the movies for something that lasts longer and tends to be a little more involved and interesting. And last but certainly not least is something that I found as a correspondent. There's a game called The Expedition, the card game. And it is a D&D style experience that runs off of an app on your phone. And you put the app in the center of the table, and you can either have there are a lot of creator quests that you can use with. You do have to buy like a box of cards that represent your abilities and your characters. But once you do that, you choose a session on the app. You play it for 15 minutes to half an hour. Most of them are written in a kind of cheeky Princess Bride style of way. Like one of my favorite ones is you have to go rescue the cheese from the town cheese bandit. Like it's fairly non-serious, but it's still a lot of fun, and it's really great to sort of sit down if you're at a bar with some friends. You pull this thing out, you play for like half an hour, and you get a small tiny hit of a D&D experience in a very small package. And for those of you who are horror aficionados, they just released the first expansion, which is if you want to play Call of Cthulhu adventures, they add like sanity rules in and have like deep ones and things that you can wall up. So, all right, tips for everybody, newbies, players, and dungeon masters. So, for players, when you make a character, pick 3 traits for your character and focus around those traits. It can be how they look. It can be a bit of their history. It can be whatever 3 things. You don't want to write out a 20-page character history to start, because that character has already been on adventures. You want a character who's ready to go on adventures. So pick something like, I'm looking for my lost father. I have my sword from my old regiment. These are all things that as you play, you can hang story pieces on and develop your character as you play. Also, take risks with your character. I see a lot of people who play D&D for the first time who are very, they're supposed to be playing these awesome adventurers who go into dark places and fight monsters. And then when they show up, they're like, can I hit the monster from 30 feet away with my dagger? I just want to... and it's okay. You want to take risks with your character because you want to get great rewards from your character, and you don't get them if you're playing the character that always hides and does nothing. Similarly, own your failures. If you miss a perception roll and don't see the secret door, play into it. Oftentimes, Dungeon Masters will reward you if you're like, yep, I totally just completely fell down on my face. Everybody laughed at me. The prince doesn't want to marry me anymore. And Dungeon Masters want to see that because that means that because you're willing to if you're willing to take risks and you make those failures, then those failures might open up other story elements too. I also recommend that you share the spotlight. A lot of times, players will play. My name is Logan Ironraven, and I am the last murderous scion of the ancient assassin brotherhood, and that's cool. But remember, it's an ensemble show, and you want to have those moments that you can share with other players, because then they're going to share their moments with you and bring everybody up. So if Logan Ironraven, has a feud with a local barony, then maybe one of the other players is a long-lost member of that barony. And that way you've got a connection between those characters that brings them together rather than rather than forcing the Dungeon Master to run a separate game for each person at the table. Last but certainly not least, death is not the end. So many people get so scared of their characters dying. And I understand that, because you put a lot of time and effort into these characters, but it's okay to make new ones, especially depending on what genre you're talking about. Like if you're playing in a horror game, you should expect your character to die, because that's the nature of the beast. But if you're playing in a fantasy game, you should also realize that, wait a minute, myth and fantasy are filled with stories about characters coming back from the underworld and or their friends seeking them out to try and rescue them. If you don't fear that element, that's great, because that means that you've thought about the end of your character. And that's something that you should also take into consideration is, okay, how do I want my character's story to end? There's no guarantee that it will end that way, but it's still something that you probably should think about. For the Dungeon Masters, develop an elevator pitch for your game. An elevator pitch comes from the screenwriting term of you should have a short summary of the basics of your game, so that if you are in an elevator with a film executive, you can turn to them and go, I have an idea for a screenplay. It's Pacific Rim meets Ghostbusters. And then the executive goes, "You're hired, Johnson," and then you become rich and famous. But as a Dungeon Master, you should also have that for your games, because if you're trying to convince people to play, the last thing that's going to get them into it is you sitting there for 15 minutes accidentally talking about the macroeconomics of Elven Gold in your game. And because if you can't get them in those first 2 minutes, you're not going to get them. And that's okay, but the punchier you can be, the better off the easier it's going to be to find players to jump in. Say yes or roll the dice is something that's kind of come out of the indie indie side of things, and what that means to me is if a character tells you that they want to do something, if there's no good reason for them to fail or no interesting reason for them to fail, they do it. And you can be adults and be like, well, no, you're not going to be able to jump here to the moon and back again because that's not how this works. You can say no, but if they are an accomplished thief and they're trying to pick a lock, what is there to stop them from doing that? Now, if there are interesting ideas for failure, like the lock is poisoned, or there are guards that are coming that might discover them, then it's time to roll the dice because there are definite different alleyways that the adventure can go down. But otherwise, the more you say yes, the better your pacing is going to be, and you're also not going to bore the rest of the table by sitting down with that one person and okay, roll to pick that lock again. Okay, roll to pick that lock again because I needed to do that so that we can get on with the rest of the adventure. Roll that pick that lock. Why do your dice suck so much, Brad? Draw a map but leave blanks. So there's a common idea that the dungeon master sits down before their campaign and fills out notebook after notebook of obsessive detail of their D&D world, and the D&D game is them revealing all of these fascinating socioeconomic ideas to their players who are blown away, and that is a very rare occurrence. What you should do is sketch out the big broad ideas, because that way, and I'm giving away a secret here, if your players come up with a better idea than you do, it is easier for you to steal it and make it look like that was your idea all along. I cannot count the number of times running a murder mystery session where the players go, well, it's got to be the Duke because X, Y, Z, and I'm sitting there going, yeah, that's way better. Okay, cool. I just change this thing. Okay, we're good. But that also factors into the next thing, which is work with your players from the beginning. There is a certain school of dungeon mastery that is adversarial and what's often called the Viking hat school, where you're wearing the Viking hat and like, I am the Lord and God of this realm, and you will do as my bidding. And that is not the school that I subscribe to, in case you didn't figure out from my mocking tome and talking about Viking hats. It's better to collaborate, and you want everybody to be a fan of each other's work. So talk with your players. If a player has a backstory element that is similar to something that you were going to put into the game, talk about integrating it. Oh, you come from a crime family? Well, there's a crime family that I was thinking about having be the main bad guys. Are they your rivals? Are you part of that crime family and are flipping against it? You should be asking questions to your players as they're filling out their character sheets. A lot of times when people put together a D&D game, at the table you see 5 people filling out their paperwork, and then the dungeon master filling out their paperwork or staring at everybody because they've already filled everything out. And it really should be a conversation. You should be asking, okay, so you chose that magic missile spell for your wizard. Where did you learn that? Oh, the Wizards College. Okay, cool. I guess there's a Wizards College in this world. Well, let's work on that. And because the more that you take those pieces from your players, the more that they buy into your world, and the less you run into the issues where, all right, here, adventurers, here's your thing for the night. The man in the black hood wants you to go to the evil castle of no. What? No, we're over evil castles. Let's do something else. But I have 3 sessions worth of evil castle stuff. We don't care. But if you say, the man in the black hood wants you to go to the hideout of the rival crime family that your rogue hates. The rogue is going to immediately become an advocate. Like, yes, let us go screw those guys over. We're going to clean out the joint. Let's do it. And that gets you onto the road of adventure more quickly. The last tip that I have: don't be afraid to discuss issues in your game outside of your game. we're all adults here. We're all adults who are pretending to be elves. But it is okay to talk about issues in game with people outside of it. A lot of times I see dungeon masters try to punish things within the fiction, like, oh, you built this broken character. Well, now I'm going to always focus bad guys on you to try and kill you, and maybe next time you won't build a broken character. No, they're going to build a character that's twice as broken. Doing it that way escalates it so much. Whereas so many of these problems, if you actually sat down and said, okay, Jillian, I know you like your half-aware panther druid, but it's not a good fit for our session, so I'd like for you to build something else and talk about it. And you hopefully will resolve it, and if you don't resolve it, that's also okay too, because sometimes, bands break up, and that's okay. All right, for the new people, there are a ton of great storytelling board games out there. Some of them are on the heavier side, like Mansions of Madness, or Descent, or Imperial Assault. Has anybody here played Betrayal at House on the Hill? That is an amazing storytelling board game and a great gateway to get people into role-playing games. As a matter of fact, there is a sequel coming out for Betrayal that is called Betrayal Legacy, which, if you don't know what legacy games are, they are board games that you play where after you put the game away, whatever happened in the previous game stays. So if you burn down this room of the house, it will stay burned down the next time you play it. And that does a really good job of sort of modeling the permanent consequences of tabletop role-playing games. I think people are more excited that I just mentioned that than like anything else that I've said here. They're like, Betrayal Legacy, is it on miniature market? Oh my God. Discover your play style by trying different things. A lot of people find one RPG and get married to it. And there are so many that are out there. You won't know if you like it unless you try it. So when there's an opportunity to play different types of games, either at a convention or if you do get into a regular game and the DM takes a break or is on vacation 1 week, that's a great time to play something else and see how other players live. An excellent game that I recommend for that type of thing is a game called Fiasco, which is it's a diceless RPG that is basically Coen Brothers the RPG. You set up an awful situation between terrible people who have high ambition and low skill, and then you play out how it happens. And it is hilarious. And it is tragic because 1 minute you'll be laughing at some stupid thing somebody did, and then the next minute you'll be crying because that person just stepped on a shotgun and shot themselves in the face. And it is fantastic as a gateway, and also it's a great way to teach you how to write. Whether you're writing for role-playing games or for fiction, because it just sets up a wonderful web of consequences. And it also has dozens of play sets that you can choose from that have kind of different starting recipes. I did a play set for it that allows you to play as the type of people who get their hands on a time travel device and try to be Biff Tannen. They want. I want the Ark of the Covenant for my coffee table, and then we're gonna jump back and get the some Aztec gold so I can put my kid through college. And it's a ton of fun because people love to play characters who have no moral center and just kind of do stupid things. And then when terrible things happen to them and they get trapped in the past, buried halfway up to their waist in the Great Pyramid, they're like, well, I expected this. This is where this was going to happen. If you do check that playset out, you can Google it. The name of it is Clock Blockers. Don't be afraid to ask questions. A lot of people who play D&D come in with an attitude of am I doing this right? Is this okay? Is this okay to do this? Good D&D groups will understand that you are new to this, and they will answer your questions as best as they can. And it's okay to ask those questions too. If you're afraid of joining an established D&D group, there's nothing stopping you from seeking out other friends and learning together at the same time. If you're new and they're new and everybody's new, the pressure drops considerably because the expectations are lowered. You're not dealing with somebody who's been playing D&D for 20 years and has decades of rules memorized. If you're playing with your other friends, you're like, bring over a 6-pack, we'll stomp some goblins, it'll be fun. Like, that's a really great way to learn how to play D&D. And look for licensed games of media that you love. Everybody here has some kind of fandom, whether it's Star Wars, Star Trek, or anything like that. Really, dang. It's all stuff that's... Oh, wow, okay. It's all stuff that you can find games for. We have 2 minutes, so I'm actually going to I'm going to end it right there. I was going to go through a quick genre list, but you can ask me about those later. Also, I do run a program called Dungeon Master on Demand. If you are curious enough to learn how to play Dungeons & Dragons but don't want to learn how to do it yourself, you can hire me, and I will be more than happy to run one of the games that I've worked on, or one of the or even Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, because it's very easy and I love teaching people how to play. So, let's do... Anybody have any quick questions? No, yes? I've been playing since I was 10 years old, which is 30 years. The first game that I played was Star Trek Tactical Combat Simulator, which was a heavy hex-based war game about Star Trek ships, except I was the one kid who was having more fun flinging himself on the couch whenever our starship took a hit. Any other questions? In the back, yes. There's a lot, but I think I'm going to answer the one that you want me to answer. So, one of my favorites in that style is a game called Worldwide Wrestling, where you play as members of a professional wrestling federation. And you not only play as the wrestlers in character, but you also play them in real life. So you're a person playing a person who's playing a professional wrestler. And it's a ton of fun because the game makes it very accessible for people who've never played RPGs to get into the RPG side, and for people who aren't into professional wrestling to get into the pro wrestling side. There are going to be live streams of that actually on International Tabletop Day, which is Saturday, April 27th. If you go to Geek and Sundry, they'll be doing a live stream of Wild World Wrestling. And I think, as a matter of fact, if you're a fan of Shut Up or Sit Down, the board game podcast, they have a live play as well that they taped. And they just posted like a day or two ago if you want to see it in action. Any other questions? All right. Well, thank you guys for coming out and listening to me ramble. If you have any other questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them after the panel, but get out there and good gaming, everybody.
And that's the end of this episode. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did, hearing from tabletop guru Rob Wieland. It was fantastic having him at the 2018 show, and we hope to see him at a future Midwest Gaming Classic. And don't forget to like and subscribe. It helps the channel out and the podcast very much. And until next time, take care, stay safe, and game on.